Hai is back in drama CD. That day, the entire studio was filled with an unusual hustle and bustle. The air-conditioned air carried the aroma of bitter coffee and script papers signed by the voice actors, but everyone's attention was focused solely on two figures in the center of the room, Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan. The two had just finished recording a collaboration project, their faces still slightly flushed from the intensity of the emotionally demanding final scene. Unexpectedly, the usually agile staff appeared awkward. They whispered and glanced at the two stars, as if they knew something was about to happen. Even the photographer tasked with capturing behind-the-scenes moments held his breath, waiting for what other surprises these two men, known for their almost inexplicable chemistry, might reveal. Xiao Zhan was still reviewing the script in his hand, trying to calm himself after the climactic scene that required a soft yet tense tone. He didn't realize that Yibo had been watching him for minutes, his eyes following Zhan's every small movement, as if it were the only thing that mattered in the room. A number of fans who had attended by special invitation were already preparing for a brief meet-and-greet session after the recording ended. When the staff signaled the fan engagement session to begin, fans let out enthusiastic screams. Camera flashes began to flash, and fans held their phones as high as they could so they wouldn't miss a single second. Xiao Zhan smiled and waved, while Yibo stood slightly behind him in his trademark cool manner, his sharp eyes still observing his collaboration partner. The previously peaceful atmosphere changed drastically when Xiao Zhan reflexively patted Yibo's shoulder, a gesture common among colleagues. However, for fans who had been paying attention to their every interaction, it was enough to send a small squeal into the room. But before the fan service could subside, Yibo did something no one had ever imagined. Without a word, Yibo stepped forward, turned Xiao Zhan slightly, and confidently lowered his head toward his face. In a split second that felt like slow motion, Yibo kissed Xiao Zhan. Not on the cheek, not on the forehead, but right on the corner of the lips, clear enough to be seen, brief enough to cause a sudden confusion throughout the room. For a moment, the room fell silent. Even the usually incessant sound of cameras stopped as if their owners had forgotten how to press the record button. Xiao Zhan froze, his eyes wide, while Yibo calmly took a half step back, pretending he hadn't just created mass hysteria. The fans watching the match took a few seconds to process what had just happened. And then, it all erupted. Screams filled the room in a matter of seconds. Fans screamed hysterically, some jumping, some falling to their knees with their mouths covered, and still others immediately pressing record as if their lives depended on it. Dozens of phones were pointed at the two stars, recording from every angle. In just 5 minutes, the short video had spread across social media at an unstoppable rate. Xiao Zhan held his lips, a mixture of shock, confusion, and a slight blush. He tried to form a sentence, but his voice died in his throat. Yibo, on the other hand, tried to suppress a smile, but the corners of his lips were clearly upturned. "You're too serious," he said quietly, just enough for Xiao Zhan to hear but caught by the nearby microphone. The staff panicked. Both of their managers looked at each other in horror and resignation. One staff member nearly dropped his clipboard, while the other struggled to calm the fans who were pressing closer to the small stage. But it was too late. The social media explosion was unstoppable. On the fast-paced platform, the clip was viewed 1 million times in just 10 minutes. Comments poured in like an unstoppable flood. Some screamed in disbelief, others laughed until they cried, and still others begged for an official explanation. Many replayed the moment frame by frame, searching for signs of improvisation, extreme fan service, or something more. Amidst the chaos, Xiao Zhan finally found his voice. "Yibo, what was that?" he whispered. Yibo stared at him for a moment, not averting his gaze, not embarrassed. "But, wrong?" he replied, his voice far too calm for someone who had just set the fandom world ablaze. Xiao Zhan's reaction stunned everyone. Instead of getting angry or immediately walking away, Zhan lowered his head, covering his face with his hands. "You're really crazy," he said with a chuckle, a laugh that made the fans scream even louder. It wasn't a response of rejection. It was far from rejection. Seeing that reaction, Yibo finally let out a light laugh, a laugh rarely seen in public. "If not now, when?" he said, stuffing his hands in his pockets and leaning casually on the table behind him. In one sentence, he turned the already heated atmosphere into magma. The fans then began chanting their names, urging them to stand closer together. The staff tried to bring the session back into order, but the energy in the room was already uncontrollable. Every small step Yibo took toward Zhan drew a scream. Every glance Zhan gave Yibo drew a lightning-fast reaction from phones trying to capture the moment. When the scheduled mini-interview began, the interviewer didn't even know where to begin. Okay, this might be the stupidest question of the day, but what exactly happened just now? He asked, his voice trembling, trying to sound professional. The fans immediately leaned in, holding their breath. Xiao Zhan wanted to deflect, but Yibo was quicker. Spontaneous, he said. One word, but enough to make the entire room roar. Zhan glanced at him sharply, but couldn't help but let out a small smile that was clearly caught on camera. The interviewer immediately lost his script as everyone was focused solely on the two's interaction. The meet and greet session ended in laughter and nervousness. Every fan who came on stage asked them to stand close together, and the two graciously complied, even though Zhan still looked very shy. Yibo, on the other hand, seemed relaxed, even teasing Zhan with glances that made fans squeal. As the event drew to a close, Zhan finally said quietly, "You made me a trending topic without any effort." Yibo replied quickly, "I can always manage." That response made Zhan pat Yibo on the shoulder, this time not out of reflex, but out of helpless laughter. As the stage lights began to dim, and the fans slowly filed out, still noisily rewatching the video, the two stood backstage, away from the cameras. "You know everyone will be asking about this for months to come, right?" Zhan asked. Yibo simply nodded lightly. "Just let it be. Not everything needs to be explained." Zhan paused, staring at him for a few seconds before finally breaking into a small smile. "You're right," he said. And for the first time since the incident, he seemed more relaxed, as if accepting that the incident could not be erased or undone. Outside the building, fans were still waiting, hoping to see them come out together. The media spotlight had gathered, ready to capture whatever happened next. But the two decided to stay inside, letting the outside world debate and speculate. That night, the short clip of that brief kiss became one of the most shared videos in the history of their fandom. No one knew if it was purely spontaneous by Yibo's definition, or if there was some hidden meaning they didn't want to reveal. Either way, the world was already in a frenzy.